What is grievous about the criminal overthrow of Nkuruma is the fact that people allowed people outside this country to influence that. And there are ample evidences.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nkuruma never dies. There were individuals who brought Kwame Nkuruma to the Gold Coast. When we are praising Kwame Nkuruma,
Abusuya se yebo Dr. Kwame Nkuruma din a adwen ben na eba team. Ndro akopim mo Parliament House a argument ebeda ho no between the majority and the minority. Awomo crashing say abusuya the minority was saying that Kwame Nkuruma wasn't the founder of Ghana, and the majority were also saying Kwame Nkuruma did a lot and he was the founder of Ghana. Abusuya the same be bring PP or this particular argument we emu. Yenhwe video no na also kire wadwen Kwame Nkuruma na oye the founder of Ghana and na say na enye Kwame Nkuruma na oye the founder of Ghana. Abusuya yenhwe video no na kire wadwen
to torpedo, truncate the democratic processes. What is grievous about the criminal overthrow of Nkuruma is the fact that people allowed people outside this country to influence that. And there are ample evidences, conclusively stating without any doubt that the overthrow of Nkuruma was not planned in Ghana. It was planned by the people who felt we needed to still come into them bowl in hand so that they can dictate to us how this country is governed. Nkuruma said he won't do that. It is shocking that there have been subtle attempts to justify the criminal act perpetrated by certain people in this country by using certain policy interventions of Nkuruma. Show me one single thing Nkuruma did without passing through the due process of law. Even the PDA, which indeed has been repudiated and condemned by many of our friends, cannot question the legality of that action. It was an action that was taken by the Parliament of Ghana. And it is amazing that this attempt to find justification to an illegality for me is laughable, to say the least. Don't judge me by my height. Judge me by the depth from which I began, and you would understand the justification in taking certain actions Nkuruma took. There were certain cities in this country Nkuruma, as the sitting president, could not travel to. Certain cities in this country. You had a woman in Kumasi who they used pestle to pound at the private part of that woman. And you know the woman's crime? She was only a member of CPP. So at that time, and interestingly, people who are now condemning one-party state, they were hailing another leader who had passed one-party state. Efo Boakye was their hero, yet they are condemning one-party state. I think that the hypocrisy in our body politics ought to be avoided. Nkuruma is the founder, the only founder of the state Ghana. I have heard, Mr. Speaker, I have heard people who have even argued that the big six, there are big six. Maybe perhaps they do not appreciate the day that so-called big six came to being. It was after the 1948 riot, when Ghanaians, ex-servicemen, who fought a war that had nothing to do with them, and promises were made to these Ghanaians by the so-called colonial masters. When they were making demand, there was a military leader of the British called Major Imrie, who instructed those ex-servicemen to be gunned down. That occasioned a riot. At that time, Nkuruma was at Salt Pond. When people were round up, all the so-called fights, which added to Nkuruma, when they interrogated, they said they didn't organize it. It was Nkuruma who organized it. At the time when the 1948 riot happened, Nkuruma was not even in Atta. They said they never participated in the 1948 riot. Yet they want us to call them Big Six. So, Mr. Speaker, there is nothing like Big Six. There was only one, and that one is Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkuruma. Right, Honorable Speaker, it is important.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. 5 minutes.
Let me conclude.
Conclude.
Mr. Speaker, what is hurtful? Mr. Speaker, what is hurtful for some of us who are in academia, and I speak as a political scientist. Mr. Speaker, Nkuruma has gotten people to write an African encyclopedia. On the campus of a university, I have acquired 3 degrees. I shamefully want to state that university brought all the writings of Nkuruma, including the African Encyclopedia, which was virtually completed, to be burnt at the supervision of lecturers of that university. I feel ashamed that I had 3 degrees from that university.
Thank you.
The history of this country can never be rewritten. Nkuruma is the founder. He will remain the founder.
Thank you.
And unfortunately, we have named state edifices after criminals who indeed participated in the overthrow of the first democratically elected government in this country. Nkuruma has no equal. He will remain the founder. He will remain the hero, no matter the death. And it is the speaker to conclude. It is not for nothing.
Thank you.
To conclude, Mr. Speaker. To conclude, just I beg you. It is not for nothing. Nkuruma was voted African of the millennium.
Thank you.
African of the millennium.
Thank you.
Nkuruma, among all the heroes in Africa, respect the name of Nkuruma.
Honorable Tampuli. It appears when we mention Kwame Nkrumah, it's like, yes, Honorable Tampuli.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to contribute to the statement that was made to commemorate the anniversary of the overthrow of the first Prime Minister, first President of the Republic of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, that overthrow, as well as subsequent overthrows, have been blots on our nation, Ghana. Mr. Speaker, it's been said, and it's bear repeating, that the more things change, the more they remain the same. Things that happened after the overthrow of Osajefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah that we condemn. Same things happened after the overthrow of Professor K. Buzia and more recently, the overthrow of the Hila Liman administration. Mr. Speaker, the flogging of women and putting things, excuse me to say, in their private parts continued after the 1981 overthrow of the Hila Liman administration. Mr. Speaker, very close by here, Makola women were stripped naked. Justice back in Koforidua. Mr. Speaker, there are a litany of such examples across the country. Mr. Speaker, the immediate speaker who made a commentary made reference to the fact that all the things that happened during the Kwame Nkrumah administration were made pursuant to laws that were passed. Mr. Speaker, be that as it is also true that the Nazi Adolf Hitler, every action that Adolf Hitler took were made pursuant to law. So, Mr. Speaker, it is not about whether it is pursuant to law or absence of law. It is about the morality of the law. Mr. Speaker, it's about the morality of the law. So, Mr. Speaker, when you make reference to law, everything that we spoke about this morning is made pursuant to a certain law. So, Mr. Speaker, yes, indeed, we are not happy about military overthrow. There are excesses even in our democratic experiments. There are excesses. It does not call for military interventions. Mr. Speaker, we have had, military interventions across the West Africa sub-region. And one would have thought that in this day and age, military interventions will be things of the past. But, Mr. Speaker, we still have, coupists, taking the reins of power in Niger. We have in Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea, Gabon, and so on and so forth. So, Mr. Speaker, when we celebrate and commemorate days like this, it also reminds us that we must all roundly condemn coupists who are still in our midst, even up to today, and not give them room to operate. We don't have to give them the kind of recognition that we are giving them now, unless, of course, we are saying that what happened in 1966 is something that we are going to be very proud and happy about. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity. to make
Thank you very much.
some short statement, comments to the statement. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Let me invite the Minister for Foreign Affairs to comment on.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this solemn statement. The 24th of February 1966 coup, the first coup recorded in Ghana. And indeed, that is the coup that triggered a chain reaction of coups on the African continent. Mr. Speaker, after the 24th of February 1966 coup, the jury has returned that the Osagefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah is the best leader that this continent has ever seen, and indeed ranks very highly as one of the best leaders the whole world has ever known. Mr. Speaker, the maker of the statement, my good friend, the Honorable MP for Ho, the Honorable Adam Kotosu, has to be commended as a first-time member of Parliament for commemorating this day. And indeed, I would like to encourage him to institutionalize this commemoration so that every year we shall be remembered. All of us ought to remember that 24 February 1966 is Ghana's day of shame. It marks the darkest hour in the history of our country. By 24 February 1966, what Osagefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah had achieved in education, in energy, in infrastructure. Indeed, the analysis has been done that a lot of the first world countries today, they were nowhere near Ghana in 1966. By the time Kwame Nkrumah commissioned our harbors, many European countries did not have the kind of harbor we had. By the time he commissioned the Tema motorway, many in cosmopolitan Europe were waiting to have a motorway of that nature. By the time the Akosombo Dam was commissioned, there were many, many countries in Europe, in the Americas, and in Africa who had absolutely no idea. They could not even conceptualize the vision, the technology that went into creating the world's biggest man-made lake at the time. The Akosombo Dam was not created by Nkrumah to power just Ghana, but it was to create electricity for the sub-region, and indeed to industrialize and create jobs for our people. So this is a man...
Minister, conclude for us.
This is a man who was ahead of his peers, and he has been vindicated. When the international community was asked by the BBC at the beginning of the new millennium to vote for the man of the millennium, he competed with the likes of Nelson Mandela, with the likes of Julius Nyerere, with the likes of Sam Nujoma, with the likes of Fidel Castro, and yet the Osagefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah emerged as the African of the millennium. And Mr. Speaker, on this day, we should be reminded that those who staged that coup with their Western collaborators, the CIA declassified files, has settled this matter beyond doubt, that was not only a local orchestration. They had international support from those who thought that if they allowed Kwame Nkrumah to continue the way he was going. Indeed, when you read the ambassador at the time, Mahoney, as I conclude, in Mahoney's own words, he said that the kind of enlightenment that Kwame Nkrumah was bringing to the continent and liberating the minds of the African people, it will serve as a threat to the progress of their continent. And that is why they collaborated with feed columnists to mastermind that coup d'etat. But history has taught us that you can overthrow a government, you can kill a man, but you cannot kill his vision, you cannot kill his ideals, you cannot kill his legacy. And that is why even after his overthrow, he is the only man in global history who was asked to come and be president in another country. Can you imagine that?
Thank you, Minister.
Overthrown in Ghana, but he became the co-president in Guinea and was given a state funeral.
Thank you.
Nkrumah never dies. The legacy of Kwame Nkrumah will live on forever and ever and ever. I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Now, leadership. I said 2-2, and we've done 2-2. So, okay, let me give you.
Honorable Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for your kindest indulgence for allowing me to contribute to the statement ably made by our colleague on the other side in commemorating Osadefo Kwame Nkrumah. Honorable Speaker, I think that we have to be very careful in this country. Nobody in this country, nor on this continent, can wish away the contributions of Kwame Nkrumah or better memory. Nobody. He did contribute his quota to the advancement of this country. Mr. Speaker, somebody said that if you could see far, you must thank those who helped you to see that far. Kwame Nkrumah rode on the back of individuals who saw that he could be an asset to the country. There were individuals who brought Kwame Nkrumah to the Caucus. When we are praising Kwame Nkrumah, what I don't want us to do as intellectuals and as members of parliament is that we don't have to belittle others in our quest to promote others. We must all applaud all those who help to make this country what it is right now. Kwame Nkrumah played his roles, but others also played their roles. Let us not, through our politicking, undermine the efforts of others. That is wrong, and that will not help advance our democracy. We must stop that. We must stop this division that we are bringing into our politics and our country. It is not right. It is not right. We must stop that. Mr. Speaker, no individual is perfect. No individual is perfect. All our leaders did some good, and there were some wrongs as well. But in all our doings, we are looking for the best that they did. And that should occupy our minds when we are making submissions. I will never, regardless of the mistakes or errors that Kwame Nkrumah made, to paint him black. I will never. Because he was a good man, and he did his best. The same thing applies to J.B. Dankwa and the others. And when you boldly say that Kwame Nkrumah is the founder of this country. I will contest you on that.
Thank you,
I won't
Professor
contest you on
Agyarko.
that, but I will tell you that there were a lot of people who helped this country to obtain independence.
Thank you, Professor Agyarko.
There were founders who built this country. Let us praise all of them. Let us identify their unique strengths, and let us stop the political
Thank you very much.
And let's stop the political hatred. It will help nobody. Mutala, it will not help nobody. Respect those who also help this country. Respect J.B. Dankwa. Respect Akwaje.
Professor Nyako, thank you so much.
Respect all of them. I, Kingsley Nyako, I respect all our founders.
Professor Nyako.
I respect J.J. Rollins, regardless of his wrongs. What is this? Let us build Ghana. And let's build one Ghana. We are one people. Let us be proud of Ghana. Speaker, thank you. As I said earlier on, you are a nice man. I like you so much. May God bless you
Honorable members,
and make you great. Thank you.
Honorable members, if I become magnanimous to you, you should also do well to at least listen to me. Professor Nyako, the time was close for you, but at least I stand. Yeah.
Speaker, let me commend the maker of the statement for bringing this matter to the fore and also reminding the House on such an important day in the history of our country. Speaker, I think it's important. This is not the first time such a statement is being made in this House. And in times past, I realize it plays out. It becomes a competition. Who loves Nkuruma most? And who owns Nkuruma most? And attempts are made to create the impression we love Nkuruma most and you are against Nkuruma. I think that is most unfortunate. It's most unfortunate. And I will not yield to your temptation to go and be responding to who did what and who did not do what. That for me is unnecessary. Nkuruma is dead and gone. It is up to us to build on what Nkuruma built, not to unnecessarily making references and building, casting aspersions and some statements which are totally unnecessary. Speaker, would he also listen to us? When you were speaking, we will listen to you. Speaker.
Motala, nowadays you are not like ordinary member. No. Now you should consider yourself as a minister, please. Yes, Honorable.
Speaker, Nkuruma's sense of Pan-Africanism is known, is respected globally, what he stood for. We all know it. We love Nkuruma, as you also do. But let's also say it, that Nkuruma was brought into this country by a certain power grant. That is part of the history. And oftentimes people have created the impression it is we against them. Two sets of people who are blazing the trail in terms of building and developing our history as a country. Independence in the shortest possible time, independence now. How is it the case that it is only Nkuruma who fought? How is it the case? It is not true. And let's depart from that argument. All of our torchbearers and all these icons contributed one way or the other. Of course, we salute Nkuruma. He did so well. But there were other allies. So when the history is being told, let's tell the history in whole. Let's stop selecting and choosing. We pick and choose. We pick and choose. And then we say that Nkuruma is the lone hero. It's not entirely true. Speaker, in recent times, I know, for instance, the Nkuruma Mausoleum, which had been abandoned for a very long time, the last resting place of a respected icon of this continent was abandoned. Go there now and look at it. Who did it? Under His Excellency Akufo Addo's term. It has been refurbished, and now it has become a very important tourist center. The main road leading to Nkuruma's hometown. Who built it? It's the same New Patriotic Party government. So, colleagues, let's get it right. We all celebrate Nkuruma. We all love him. But let's not mix up the history. Speaker, the building of history and the development of this fact must go hand in hand. The building of industries. Nkuruma built over 300 industries, factories. I don't need to tell them. The history is clear. I will not tell you that it was at whose instance that all these factories were sold like tomatoes. These tomatoes were sold. So, Speaker, we want to get the history right. Let's all appreciate that Nkuruma has done what he did. So, these factories, I'm sure if we had not sold them, if we had not sold these factories, now we will be building on these factories. You sold them. We sold them. And now we want to play pious and say that we love Nkuruma more than anybody. Most unfortunate. Nkuruma remains an icon of Africa. Nobody can take that away. But I insist that there was a certain power grant, there was a certain J.B. Dankwa, there was a certain Akwajeyi. All these people contributed to the development of Ghana, the emergence of Ghana. All these people contributed. So, Speaker, then the maker of the statement also mentioned in passing the need for us to build monuments, Nkuruma's monument. I think the best way we can remember Nkuruma and celebrate him, and not just Nkuruma, also celebrate other icons of this continent and this country, is to instill what they stood for in our schools and educational centers. The building of physical infrastructure and monument is not enough. They will be destroyed over the passage of time. These monuments will be destroyed over the passage of time. What did Nkuruma stood for? Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism and all these are the things we should pay attention to. Speaker, these are the things we should pay attention to so that we can instill this into our schools and get our younger generations to imbibe these lessons and to build a nation that we can all be proud of. So we celebrate Nkuruma. It's important we celebrate Nkuruma, but we should not lose sight of the other icons, like the Power Grant, the Akwajeyi, all contributed to the building of modern Ghana now. Speaker, I think this should be the narrative. Anytime these statements are made about icons, let's not let it degenerate to become partisan, for us to become we and them, the NPP and the NDC. This thing will not help us. I think when we speak like this, it will be more inclusive and it will help us in the development of our country. Speaker, on this note, I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Majority Leadership.
Mr. Speaker, I'll yield to Honorable Agaga.
Very well. Honorable James Agaga, please, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the maker of the statement for putting together such a wonderful piece in memory of the darkest moment in our history. Mr. Speaker, I have taken pains to conduct some research to try to establish why Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown, whether or not the factors which may have accounted for his overthrow are justified is another matter for a thorough debate. But, Mr. Speaker, my findings shows that Kwame Nkrumah was accused of being a dictator. And that is why the CIA then decided to collaborate with people in this country whose forebears are the likes of J.B. Dankwa, Obeche Bilamte, and the names go on and on and on and on. They are the forebears.
Honorable member, please. It's a comment, and you don't have to. No. It will degenerate
Speaker,
into.
I said I did some research. I don't know whether the defense minister wants to engage me on who the forebears of the people who collaborated with the CIA are. I'm not sure he wants to engage me in a debate like that.
You let me listen to him. He had already wanted to make a comment, so let me listen to
Mr.
his
Speaker,
point of order.
The comments I wanted to make, I reserve those comments for later date, or even maybe next year. But I just wanted the honorable member to note that if you do not have evidence that you can tender into this house, please move away from mentioning the names of people who were not directly involved in the 1966 coup. We know the architects of the 1966 coup. We know their names. If you want to mention their names, we don't have a problem. But if you decide to mention names of people who were not there, it is very, very wrong. Because you don't have any evidence. And I think he should withdraw that part of his statement. If you mention Kotoka, you mention Afrifa, you mention those people, nobody has a problem because we all know it. Just like if I want to mention 1981, I will mention the names. 1979, I will mention the names. The party you formed, the party you are contesting from, the party from which you are, you remove Liman, I will mention the names. I don't have a problem. You are beneficiaries of coup d'etat. All of you are beneficiaries of coup d'etat. I don't have a problem with that. But don't mention the name of any other person. Don't.
Honorable Motala, please. Yes, honorable member. But honorable member, do you have evidence of the names you mentioned?
Mr. Speaker, I mentioned Obeche Bilamte, and he says I should furnish this house with evidence. In fact, there is a reported judgment of the Court of Appeal. Do you know what? Interestingly, one of the justices who presided over the conviction of Obeche Bilamte in absentia was Akufo Addo's father. The conviction was related to acts of terror, which subsequently resulted in the commission of further acts of terror, leading to the overthrow of Nkuruma. So don't go there. Don't go there. Further research indicates that J.B. Dankwa was certified as a collaborator of the CIA. And it is the CIA which eventually overthrew Kwame Nkrumah. So don't ask me to furnish you with evidence. If you do, you open a can of worms. But Mr. Speaker, let me return to my contribution.
Yeah, contribute and conclude, please. We've taken a lot of time.
Mr. Speaker, I was interjected by the other side.
So please, James, go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, Kwame Nkrumah has been criticized wrongly as leading a dictatorial government, which made it practically impossible for Kwame Nkrumah to be overthrown through the power of the thumb. But, Mr. Speaker, the history is very clear. Starting from 1951, after Kwame Nkrumah broke away from the UGCC and founded the CPP led by Nkrumah routed the UGCC and its subsequent, offshoots in successive elections, starting from 1951 they were routed. In 54, they were routed. In 57, they were routed. And in 1960, they were routed.